This is the fourth video in my SEO checklist playlist. The previous videos were about getting keywords, working on the site structure and technical audit. This one is about contents of your website. Content optimization is a very complex subject, but I'm going to give you the important things here so you understand how to work with it and what to do to make sure that your website at least looks decent in the eyes of the search engines at the start. So it all starts with a title. Meta tag title is still the most important element in text ranking factor, and optimizing titles is still very important. First thing you want to do is to make sure that your title fits in the SERP. Usually the length of title is 65 to 70 symbols or 512 pixels. So whatever fits on the Google search results page, that should be the length of your title. Some people prefer to write longer titles because Google still crawls the title past that limit, but people will not be able to see that. And you want to make sure that your title gets a good click-through rate. And therefore you have to include all of the important information, everything you want to show to your users in title. So make sure to not miss out on anything important, and therefore the best practice for it is to make sure that all of your title fits in the search results page. Your title should represent the contents of the page, it should be related to the subject of the page that people are going to open by clicking on it, and the title should also be attractive, it should be optimized. You should do everything for it to have a good click-through rate. So make sure to work on it in a way that makes people want to click on it. Using keywords in title is a must. If you have a keyword that you're targeting with a certain page, using that keyword in title is what you have to do 100% of the time. Because title, as I mentioned before, is a very important element for text ranking factors, and this is what the search engines read about your page and use to understand what the page is going to be about. So make sure to use the keyword you're targeting in the title. Another recommendation in this field is some people advise to move the important words or keywords to the front of the title to make sure that search engines see the keywords first. That is not a requirement, and only do so if you are sure that it will not affect your CTR and will not make your title look worse. And the last recommendation for titles, and the most important ones, that all of the titles on your website should be unique. It doesn't mean that you cannot use the titles that someone else used. This goes only for the titles on your own website. Second part of content optimization for this video is snippet optimization. It defines how your page will look like in the search results. So recommendations for description optimization is pretty much the same as for titles. First thing you want to do is make sure that your description fits in the search engine results page, so it shouldn't be too long, or if it's too long, all of the important information should be moved to the front so people can see what the page is about and what is the unique selling point of that page. And also you don't want your descriptions to be too short. Even if all of the information you want to show about the page fits within like 5-10 words, you want to make sure that your descriptions are as long as possible. That is also for click-through rate, because usually descriptions take up 2 lines of text in the search results page. And if you have a short description, you will have just 1 line of text, and therefore the snippet for your page will be smaller than the ones of your competitors. So don't write descriptions that are too short, and make sure that your descriptions fit on the screen. Another recommendation for snippet optimization that doesn't affect descriptions so much is schema markup. You want to make sure to use markup on your pages to add as much information about your page as possible. You have probably seen snippets like this one. It was optimized with the schema markup. Go and do your research on how to use schema to optimize your snippets to make sure that your page takes up as much space in SERP as possible and provides as much information about your website as possible. Once you've done with titles and snippets, move on to optimizing content on your pages. First thing you want to do is to make sure that your content is easy to read and understand and is well structured. So make sure to use headings H1 through H6 if necessary to create a proper structure for your content. So for example, if you are writing an article, make sure to have H1 heading. The heading of your article, it should be just 1 per article. Then the subheadings should be H2 headings. The list should be H3 headings, and if necessary, the rest of the nesting levels should be H5, H6, and so forth. And the important part here is to keep the nesting levels in check, which means that H2 heading can be followed only by H3 heading and not by H4 heading. You cannot jump from H2 to H4 without using H3. And of course, you can use as many H2s as you like. You can use H2 heading, H2 heading, H2 heading, H3, H4, H2. Site structure is not a complex stuff. Find some content on it, read it up. It should take a minute to understand how to work with it. Now let's talk about the content itself. So first of all, the content should be unique. Again, no duplicate pages, no duplicate content. You should avoid all of that at all costs. You should use your keywords in your content, obviously, in the text. It is recommended to use the keyword at least once per first 100 words in your content, and then a couple times more. And it is also recommended to add focus keyword to H1 heading and similar keywords to H2, H3 headings, and so on. If you are using images on your pages, make sure to use alt text. Alt text should also include the focus keywords for the page or similar keywords. As for the length of the text, there are a lot of websites where you can find different recommendations. Some say that text should be at least 1500 words long, some say at least 2000 words long. There is no limit for it. You can write shorter articles, you can write longer articles, but from my experience, at least 250, 300 words, that is your minimum requirement. When you are writing the text, make sure to not overuse the keywords in it. Your keyword density should not be too high, so do not work on adding the keywords on purpose. If the keyword fits in naturally, leave it in there. The search engines are smart these days and they will see when you are trying too hard to add as many keywords into text as possible, so don't do that. Just write natural text and make sure to include some of the keywords here and there, but not overdo it. So that's it about the content optimization for SEO checklist playlist. The next video will be about backlinks. It's already up, so you can go ahead and watch it. Cheers!